Hey, welcome back. Still watching Business Morning here on Channels Television. Well, the preceding conversation was on skills, and we saw the need for skills. Well, KPMG has stated that Nigerian unemployment rate had increased to 37.7% in 2022, and it's expected to go up further to 40.6%. That's about 4 to 5 million new entrants into the Nigerian job market every year, unlike the United States, where we see that that is dropping. And we know that everybody cannot do a white-collar job, wait to be paid salaries. So how do we get the skills to bridge this gap, to create more employment? Well, we have joining us here in the studio Mr. Samson Olatunde, the founder of Knowledge Digest Africa. Mr. Olatunde, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so I mean, it's scary when we look at these numbers, about 40.6, if about 40% of the Nigerian population, and we know that majority of Nigerian population are the youths, if they are plunged into unemployment at the end of this year, I mean, we could expect a lot of insecurity because they get desperate and people have to survive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it has to do with a lot of problems that we need to first quickly look at, and then we think about the solutions. For instance, you can hardly see, if you pick like 10 people, I can say to you categorically like 7 to 8 of them may not really know what they want to do after math, even when they're out of school. So what that means...
You're talking of graduates
now. So what that means is that there's a fundamental problem with our curriculum. Now, so if you check it from secondary school to primary secondary school institution, you have 6 years, you have another 6 years, then you have 4 years, right? So what that means is that I would have done like 17 years in acquiring formal education. And if I acquire, takes 17 years for me to acquire formal education, what that means is that I should have some knowledge base that can help me start something of my own, or make me even render my skill in exchange for value in the marketplace. But you see that many of the people in school that have gone through school, they went there just because they want to pass their exams, not really about the job market, not really about them understanding who they are and then what kind of value they can have made available in the marketplace. So what that simply means is that we need to begin to think about some level of knowledge base that needs to be incorporated in our curriculum. Starting from the grassroots, primary school, what kind of extra curriculum did you need to infuse, and it becomes like a major course for you to take, so that begins to build from the primary to secondary school and to the higher institution.
You know, what comes to my mind is actually, I know that parents have major roles to play. For instance,
absolutely,
as a parent, you're supposed to be able to find your child's strength and then push your child towards that area of strength. If you notice at the young age that your child has music, loves music, or the arts, or engineering, plays with... I mean, if you push your children towards that, a lot of the big names, makers of softwares and hardwares that we celebrate today are school dropouts, you know. And I do know that even for the Hollywood stars, a lot of them did not have to go through formal education. They just at a point went into acting schools and all of that. So perhaps the parents also, if they are not too busy making money.
So I agree with you, but you know that if you look at the pattern, many of our parents didn't really go through the formal education, really. And then it's also like a major factor because of the fact that their notion is always, you know, get to school, get out of school, get a job, get married. You know, it's always like around the career path. So it has made a lot of people think in that direction. Now, if not for COVID, many things that has happened, many people will not see that there are certain abilities that I have or certain things I can do just because COVID helps you understand basic things. Now, let's even look at it from the aspect of the organization. Let's say like an average CEO will want to get into the office 9 to 5. But when COVID came, they realized that you can do many things outside the office, and then they start thinking about getting more of consultants, freelancers to do many things for them, reducing cost and still getting to achieve many things they want to achieve. Now, if COVID doesn't come in space, we wouldn't have seen the ability of what many workers or many employees can do in the organization. Now, the same way it is that our parents then didn't go through the formal learning facility, and then they are thinking that if I'm going to invest in you, let me invest in you so that you can can become somebody who we have this white collar job, and I can be proud of saying, oh, my child, my son
is a doctor, is a lawyer.
You know, so that didn't really bring out the entrepreneurship ability of people out, because that was like the building capacity of our parents towards us. Now, the way forward is sure that if you go through the formal education, you can only obtain like 15% skill set, and you need 85% skill set that makes you to be successful in life. And the 85% skill set you need is going to be via informal learning. That means you have to read books, you have to get to seminars, you have to get into volunteering, you have to get into mentorship and all of that. So how do you begin to think about, as a young person, think about you beyond your 15% skill set in a formal knowledge that you want to acquire? How do you begin to think about acquiring the 85% is what we should be talking about now. So how do you make use of tech to your advantage? You can be shocked that many people get into a Zoom session, Zoom meeting, and they don't even know how to mute. They don't know even how to indicate that they want to speak in a meeting. That's how bad you see when you get a graduate into a Zoom meeting and you're beginning to think about the fact that, oh, does that mean that this person has not gone through the rudiment of understanding how this technology works? So what that means to any young person listening is that in as much that we have a lot of things working against us. For instance, we don't have good environment that can enhance you to be able to achieve so much. We know that there's a lot of things going wrong in terms of the curriculum that we need to work on. But hey, you have access to learn informally. You have access to get on the YouTube, understand how things are done, try it on your own, get into sessions where you have people that are knowledgeable in that field, and begin to think about solutions to many of the things you have to do within your space.
But then you have some other discouraging factors when you talk about, go on YouTube, and a lot of people will tell you infrastructure issues, internet penetration, electricity supply, cost of data, and all of that. But is there a way we can make it more accessible, Maybe people are going to school. In school, can they infuse something into the curriculum? Can we get the teachers? I know then there used to be career counseling if you want to go into university.
It's still there.
But how effective is it? Because career counseling is actually supposed to help you find your area of strength so you can pursue it. Whether you want to go on with university, go to a technical school, or you want to follow something else. But I mean, I think those things are just there, just for
the structure's sake.
Yes.
So for me, in a way to advise many of the young people, or people that are even startups generally, because you see that many of these young persons decide to start something of their own. So we put them around.
And they do trial and error, because there's no...
So why can't we begin to think about, and that's where the collaboration comes in. I mean, government can't do everything for us, so we need to begin to think about the civic organization, think about the schools, think about the university, think about stakeholders coming together. I mean, that's one of the things we are able to look at in our own space, because we felt, why can't we have a one-stop digital knowledge bank, which we call Knowledge Digest Africa, where someone like you, who's an expert, who's been there in broadcasting for over how many years you can think about, why can't we have people like this share knowledge? So it means that I want to get into broadcasting, I want to become a presenter. What are the rudiments? What are the do's and don'ts? How can people have access to those kind of information? Now, the successful entrepreneurs that we have, how many knowledge-based information can we get from them? You'll be shocked that when you Google and you're looking for an entrepreneur in Nigeria, you will see more of the foreigners sharing tips. And those tips they are sharing, there's a lot going against for us, because we don't have an enabling environment like you have said. And somebody is telling you, oh, you can get a loan. We know that if you get into the bank, you're going to be frustrated. So how do we begin to get a one-stop knowledge digital bank that will give access to me wanting to start a business? And when I type, I have indigenous content. I have content relatable to African market. So I call it learning from African for African market. So not that learning from a developed country and you want to bring it into African market, because there's so much wrong with our own system in here. So how do we begin to have stakeholders meeting whereby I can have access to you to say, can you just share 15 minutes knowledge about some of the things I need to get to know, where are the places I need to go, who are the people I need to talk to about the fact that I want to become a presenter or I want to become a broadcaster? How do we get all of that within all of the sectors? Now, we're talking about tech now. now. Now, the reality is that if you are in business and you're not introducing tech to what you're doing, you're going to be out of business. If you're in business and you don't have a knowledge about tech, or don't have people within your organization, or you don't have freelancers that you're working with, or stakeholders that can help you grow your business with tech, you're going to get frustrated. For instance, look at what is happening to the currency. Now, and I want to do business outside the country. If I don't have a payment gateway, what that means is that I'm going to be out of place. So how do you begin to think about alternative solutions to your payment gateway? How do you begin to think about having your own website, like your online office, as against your physical office, that people can see your product out there? How do you begin to collaborate with people like Amazon, Konga, Jumia, all of those online platforms?
So are professionals hoarding their information?
So the reality is that if I'm a startup, it will be very hard for you to have a professional giving me access. It's like that in Nigeria, because I've been in there.
No, I'm talking to you now. You are working on creating a knowledge bank.
So what has made it easier for us is that we are going through different bodies to say, okay, we want to get into ICANN. So let's go through the bodies, and can you give us an expert? But if I don't have that knowledge about how to go about it. For instance, I write a mail to you, and I know you are extremely busy. Before you can check the mail, it could take maybe a week because you are doing back-to-back production, right? And I want to interview you. Now, you don't really have the time. You want to do it, but you have a lot going on with you. So the challenge currently is, how do we begin to have stakeholders get together and say, please, we want to have different e-learning platforms where people can have access to indigenous content that can help us grow. And that's what we are building with Knowledge Digest Africa. We call it Africa's One-Stop Digital Knowledge Bank.
So is it working? I mean, your collaboration with bodies and associations?
It's really working, because now, you know, just like one of my colleagues said, the people that are founders, that have done a lot, that have built a structure, are already realizing that they are getting old and they are almost leaving. So they want to give so much now, and they are willing to share as much information. You have businesses in Nigeria as far as 20 years. How do we get the founder? How do we get the group managing director? How do we get the stakeholders to begin to share some of the tips, so that someone like me, if I want to get into your industry or into comedy industry, I can think of an Alibaba, Basket Mart. If I'm going into tech, I can think of Bosun, that is now commissioner for communication. I can begin to be a minister for communication. I can begin to think about people, support. How do we have access to them? Stakeholders meeting.
So I hope you are making the bank accessible and not, I mean, expensive for...
No, I'm not making it expensive, because what we have done is to make that platform like a go-to. Because I can't interview you and start selling the interview. But what I'm doing is what we are doing in our organization is to ensure that with Knowledge Digest Africa, once you get in there, you have access to different interviews that is teaching you how do I start, how do I scale, how do I sustain, how do I build a system. For instance, I get into the career part of it. How do I get a professional who has been there for 20 years in HR, in management, in business development? How can I get that person to share tips so that when I am in that pathway, I can learn from that person on a go. I'm not restricted, but I can have access to information on one single platform.
All right, sounds interesting. And I mean, if you make it accessible, especially to the young ones, and this is real knowledge from first-hand
people who are already
who are already in those industries and practicing, I think it will go a long way to bridge that gap. And we do hope that it works, and wish you success.
Thank you so much.
Samson Olatunde, founder, Knowledge Digest Africa. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And wish you the best.
Yeah, bye.
All right.